Okay, so John, talk to me about this case. I mean, we've seen the protests. Of course, there were the questions around what exactly happened. But in just the last 24 hours, we're getting this message from the city, basically saying that they're trying to get to the bottom of destroying evidence?
This is the most startling and surprising thing I've ever heard of. I've been involved in countless cases. Frequently, evidence is lost or destroyed, but never has there been a destruction of the evidence when the very city said, we're going to investigate our own people and determine how this happened. This is critical evidence for us because we made a specific request to preserve all physical evidence, including the cars. And of course, we wanted the car, because I personally wanted to sit in that car and see what that officer could have seen when he has his rifle in front of him. Could he really see what he said he saw? And then to shoot into the window at least 5 times is just outrageous and startling to me. And so the evidence that would have been utilized for us to have our own reconstruction expert to take a look at this and determine whether the credibility of the officer is something we could accept, that has been destroyed. And for the city itself to say, yeah, you're right, we shouldn't have destroyed it, and we're going to investigate, and we may even prosecute our own people. No, this is a side issue, because the real issue is, did you have a right to kill this young man when you did, and whether or not they should be prosecuted for it. Now, we're looking at the civil side of it. That's where we are on this case, and we're going to continue to do that. But this is a most unusual development. And something has never been done in any cases I've been in where evidence is destroyed and the police department itself and the city then investigates its own officers. Someone did this deliberately. We don't know who, and we don't know why, and who gave the command to do it. But we got to get to the bottom of it.
And talk to me about this. Take us back to what happened with this case. Bring people up to speed on what this Sean Monterrosa case is.
This is a case where there was wide-scale looting after the George Floyd death, and people took to the streets. And in this particular place in Vallejo, at one of these Walgreens store pharmacies, there was some looting that was taking place. The police that came early at around 10 o'clock that evening basically arrested some people and shoot everything else away. At about 12:30 that evening, they got another call. And this time, the police did converged on this particular area. They had a run-in with some people in a car, and one of the cars rammed them, and then they gave chase to the car. However, two officers were in a car, an unmarked police car, and as they were in that car, apparently they saw young Sean Monterrosa coming in their direction. There's 2 stories. One is given by the police chief at the outset, is that a young Monterrosa went to his knees, put himself in a surrendering position, and he was pulling his hands up. They think they saw what appeared to be a gun, but it turned out to be the butt hand of a hammer. Mm-hmm. They shot and killed him. Another story that they've now given is that he was running and he put himself in a crouching position as if he was getting ready to attack the officers. The officers were coming forward to him in an unmarked car. An officer was in the back seat of that car with a rifle, and he used that rifle to fire into the car, through the window of the car, striking this young man in the center of his neck, killing him instantly. There is some dispute that has taken place now as to where was the shot. Was it really through the neck or was it to the back of the head? The police chief have said that he was shot in the back of the head. I personally examined the body, at the time it was in the morgue. And I could see that there was a hole in the center of his neck. I also could see that there was a bruising and looked like maybe a hole of some kind in the back of his neck. We thought that might have been an exit wound because we clearly could see that the entry into his neck was in fact an entry wound. Now the question here is, did the police have a lawful basis to use deadly force under the circumstances? We know that the kid had not done anything to the officers. He had not threatened them. He had not charged them. He had not pulled out whatever he had in a threatening manner. And then the question is, did the police have a right under the law to do what they did? And so those are the issues that are confronting us. And unfortunately, we've gotten off to this horrible start where we have evidence that's being destroyed. And then we get a video. And the video that we saw did not have exactly what happened on that particular night. And that was most surprising and startling to us, because the chief on the first day had given us a statement that the young man had went to his knees in a surrendering position, and as he was attempting to put his hands up, he was shot and killed. But when the video doesn't show any of that. It only shows that the officer was was in the backseat of a car and he shot through a window. You couldn't even see the young man that was shot. So the real question is, where did the chief get that statement from? How did he come up with this story that at the very beginning looked like that the officer was wrong? Later, we find out that the police union made a statement that contradicted that of the police chief. And they said that the young man was running and fell to a crouching position as if he was getting ready to attack the officers, and therefore that was the basis for the shooting of him.
But now let folks help us understand, though. So he's getting ready to attack the officers, but they're in a vehicle, right?
They're in a vehicle, and they have guns. One has a rifle. One's driving. The officer that ultimately had the rifle and did the shooting. This is the fourth shooting he has had. The fourth shooting, which is just astounding that someone is still in the department that has that many shootings. But the young man was, in fact, never in the car, never ran into the car, and at first he was running, but we also know that he stopped running and he either put himself in a surrender position, as the chief said initially, or he was in a crouching position. But either one of those positions, neither one justified the shooting of him. The officers were in the car, they were in a position of safety. He was not. So these are the factual issues that we're going to have to fight out as the case goes along. So
you're saying that the officer in the back seat of the unmarked car shot through the front windshield.
That's right. That's what he did. And at 5 times with the rifle. And we were concerned. We wanted to see that window. How was it? Is it really 5 times? Was it 1 time? Whatever we can make out of that, we wanted to put our expert on it to evaluate that. We also wanted the car, and it turns out the car has already been put back in service. The window has been, the front window has been corrected, and the car is back in service. So now we don't know what kind of shape it's in. But I really thought that for us, it's important to go back, get into position that that officer was, and see what he in fact could see at the time he claimed he shot those 5 weapons, those 5 shots.
And so as we look at this case, and people on the outside kind of looking in say, okay, so you got a guy who's outside. Did he even know that it was police, given that it was an unmarked vehicle?
Right. Yeah, he didn't, as far as we know, obviously there's no conversation, but there clearly was unmarked police cars, and it wasn't even a car itself. It was a pickup, you know.
Wow. So there are just so many questions, I suppose, around this case. What's the family saying as we?
Well, the family, you know, these are wonderful, wonderful people. There's 2 sisters who are terrific. The mom and dad, they're immigrants from Argentina. They've come here. They're hard-working people, and so it's a delight to represent the family. It's an Argentinian family. But the mom, who doesn't speak English, is heartbroken. She was certainly at a rally we had that she cried and cried and cried, and she has a lot of eloquence to her. She was a former dancer in one of these Argentinian dancers that they have. She was part of that in her youth. Quite eloquent. The father was a physician in Argentina, but has come to take subservient jobs here because he wasn't qualified to practice medicine here, and 2 young daughters who are just delight, who are working aggressively to find out what happened to their brother. They've really been strong advocates for this whole matter, and so it's really been great working with them. They're very committed to the issues here in terms of finding out what happened to their brother and getting justice for their brother. They obviously think that this officer should be prosecuted. Unfortunately, as you probably know, real controversy developed around whether the local DA is going to prosecute or not. The local DA has said that she is recusing herself, and she is not going to be the one to prosecute her, and she sent it over to the Attorney General to prosecute. And the Attorney General wrote her back and says, no, we're not going to take it. It's your job. You do it. So then what she does, she writes another letter to the Attorney General and says, not only I want you to do this case, I want you to do the Willie McCoy case. Willie McCoy is a young rapper who was shot at over 50 times by Vallejo PD under circumstances that are still very questionable. So the DA has basically said there's two cases that I can't investigate or determine whether I should prosecute or not. We would like for you to do it. The DA, the Attorney General, has not responded. But this is very highly unusual. Everything about this case is turned into more surprises than we can imagine. It's truly astounding as to what's taking place in terms of the irregularities of this case.
Well, you read my mind. I was going to say, so what next? What do you all want to see? You're saying that the officer needs to be prosecuted?
Well, of course, they should be investigated for purposes of determining whether criminal prosecution take place. I mean, what you basically have from our point of view, you have a young man who is shot, who was either surrendering or was in a crouching position, but not attacking the officer or any officers. The officers were in position of safety, and they shoot through windows, which is another startling event here, that you are shooting from the car through windows, and the front window. So from our point of view, there are just a lot of different areas that have to be investigated. Ideally, we would see these officers prosecuted. Unfortunately, I don't have control over that. All I can really do is bring a civil cause of action, which we will do, federal civil rights action, which we will file in the next couple of weeks. Now that we've had a chance to see the video, we still think that there are other videos that may be out there that we're making a request for. But given that this evidence has been destroyed here, we don't know what other evidence has been destroyed. But I can rest assure you it's going to become an issue in any case we have about the police destroying evidence that we had directly asked them to preserve.
And so, as you said, you're going to get the feds involved. I know that the city says that they're asking the FBI to come in as well to investigate. You're looking for a federal civil rights complaint here.
Well, we're doing federal civil rights violations. That's absolutely true.